when I went to ETS, I didn't know much about psychometrics at all. And I spent 7 years there and had to learn a great deal, in part because Charles wrote his book, and I spent a lot of my time running around trying to tell people it wasn't us, it was him.
I like the SAT.
I know, but that was not a good thing for us. In any event, I worked pretty hard because I thought I could figure out what G was. IQ, G. It's essentially what the SAT measures, we think. We're not sure. And in the end, what I learned from lots of psychometricians and the 2 or 3 schools of thought among them was that what I came with is that G is G and there is no other G but G. And that underneath G is essentially nothing. It's not anything you can find in your head. You can't point to any specific part of your brain where it is. It's a very complex set of faculties, and the way G is built, at least in terms of the way it's used in the SAT, is whenever we find a question that correlates well with the other questions that measure G, we determine that a valid question. So what is G? Now, you note that the SAT used to be called the Scholastic Aptitude Test. Because of controversy in the science of the field, it's now simply called the SAT. Aptitude is out. So and one more thing about the SAT and the score of 1180. The SAT, first of all, is a statement of probability. I'll use graduation rates because I don't know the first year grade predictive validity is what stands up in court. But if you run the SAT against graduation rates, which seems to me a better indicator of success in 4-year schools, what you discover is that if you score 1,000, let's take the old SAT, which is pretty much in the middle, that your chances of graduating from a 4-year school are 67%. Now, if you go to an elite 4-year school, those chances jump up over 75%. If you score between 1,100 and 1,300 on the SAT, your chances of graduating from a 4-year school are about, I think it's about 83 or 84%. Doesn't seem to be any difference in that 200 score range. But what I'm saying to you here is that the SAT, the notion that there is a line that you draw in the sand because of the SAT is simply not the case. If you score 900 on the SAT, your chances of going to a 4-year, that is below average, your chances of graduating before your college are about 43%. Well, if you pick the right 43%, the outcome is no different than the 85% who graduate at the level of 1,200. They both graduate. And when we look further on using longitudinal data, we don't see a whole lot of distinction in how they perform in the economy, by the way. The differences in earnings between the top of the range and the bottom of the range in the SAT is about 25%, at least 10 years out into the labor market. So we do not want to reify or overly inflate the value of the SAT. And keep in mind that the correlation between the SAT and first-year performance in college is 0.38. Would you go over a bridge that only held up 38% of the time is one way to think about that number. So these tests and the power of them are greatly overstated in the ways in which we use them. I think that's very clear now.